Here we go.
Oh.
Intro music. Tighten up, boys. I don't look like an idiot, do I?
You look good, man.
You want a truth? All right, back with Behind the Blind, brought to you by Tetra Hearing. Check them out at tetrahearing.com. Logan Burditt, Justin Chaz Michaels.
That's Chaz Michaels.
Chaz Michaels. Joe Palumbo. I'm Ronnie Philips. We are in West Texas, and Happy New Year. It's 2023. It's New Year's Day. You got a booger hanging from your nose?
No, I said Happy New Year, y'all.
I thought you were asking Chaz if you had a booger.
I said Happy New Year.
Been one of those days.
I did kind of look at him while picking my nose.
January 1st, 2023, brand new year. We always start off the new year in Texas with VLand and Holding. Joe runs this operation down here, and you can pretty much get anything and everything you want from VLand and Holding. We'll talk about that in just a bit, but let's talk about our sandhill crane hunt on our day one hunt.
Joe's happy to have Chaz back.
It's good to be back.
7 years in the making.
7-year
Season
hiatus.
3 was the last time I was here.
7-year
hiatus.
7 years, dude. You were.
How'd you get on the podcast so soon?
It's good to be back.
Doubt.
Champion's just over there laying on the couch.
Yeah. No doubt. It is good to have you back, though.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, no doubt. Feels good.
We killed a few today.
Yeah. So again, we'll dive into our day one hunt about sandhill crane hunting, and wasn't such a great day. A little different this year than it has been in past years with all the different food sources that there is available where we crane hunt. There's limited food sources this year, Joe.
Yeah. So typically, we have typically we got a good selection of
Let me get that microphone closer to you.
We got a good good selection of Milo, winter wheat. Sometimes we get some peanuts every once in a while, but this year, we went second longest drought in the state of Texas's history. We went 286 consecutive days without a measurable rainfall out here, and a measurable rainfall is 0.10, tenth of an inch is what they consider measurable. So less than a tenth of an inch over 10 months, dude. That's crazy. And then we got, of course, opening weekend of dove season. It rained its ass off. We got like 4 inches. All the water holes that we'd all been watching all summer were all useless because all the rain just had them scattered out everywhere. But that's really been the only rain we've had in this area in the last year. Actually going on a year and a half now has been, that first week of September. Caught a little bit back in October, but just still not enough. You guys know after being here
10 years.
Yeah. Many years if y'all been coming down and we've been doing this hunt, where the area that we hunt, we really depend on that annual rainfall to keep that draw kind of full. And it seems like this year there's only a couple really small pockets that they're able to use. And two, lack of feed. There's no Milo.
Maybe it's just because I haven't noticed it in years past because I haven't really had to notice it. But this year it seems like they are in spots that I haven't really paid attention to or seen before. A lot smaller.
100%.
Like, I wouldn't call them a draw. It's like a depression that
Just
has trees
spot.
around
Yeah,
it. So it's
it's
not
just-
really
yeah.
a pond,
Right.
or a lake or anything. It's just
West Texas Waterway.
Pretty much.
it's like a low depression mesquite thicket.
Right. You would call it a waterway if we were in Kansas.
And
That's all it is.
It's just a weird little area that it's like, I was like, hey, they're coming from the windmill this morning. They're just kind of coming out of these it was a weird little area they were roosting in, but I saw them in there yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what led us to the field we hunted this morning.
Right.
Other than the fact that you were looking at it too, but
Well,
you
yeah,
didn't
like
know
I said,
exactly where they're coming from because they weren't coming
clue.
from
Yeah.
10 miles south where we're normally shooting.
Right.
them,
I didn't have a clue where those birds were coming from, but I had been seeing them in that field very consistently. Last 5 days they've been in there either morning or evening. Last night they were in there, and all you can do is go set up where you were. Seriously. So, but this morning, I don't know, man. They just really didn't want anything to do with us, really. I don't know if...
Well, we didn't have any wind for the first hour and a half.
They didn't have no wind, for
but
sure.
we had plenty of
went
opportunities. We had a couple groups that were like coming right in.
Killable.
And then they saw the camera.
We got greedy.
They got something. We got a little greedy. Whatever the case may be.
sure.
We were
trying to finish them right.
if we were just shooting, we probably could have shot our limit today.
Probably, yeah.
We're trying to decoy
that one group.
We had a group of 5 that were
I was waiting for you to call it.
Yeah.
Right.
I was ready.
He's itching.
know.
7 years. 7 years.
I was ready.
Yeah, he was ready to pull that trigger.
I got to take some meat home with me.
right.
Joe, I
the sky.
had a question for you in talking about the rain. So you hadn't had rain since September, but when do they typically, being that this is agriculturally a different area than where we're from, when do they normally plant the cotton and when does the milo typically go in? So did they plant it and then it didn't take, and so then they just put in that whatever that you called it? What'd you call it, like a hay grass or
Hay grazer.
Hay grazer, yeah.
It's sorghum, right?
Yeah, sorghum.
It's sorghum. We call that sorghum.
People
back
in
then.
Western Kansas call it feed.
Yeah,
feed.
It's just like a cow
Sorghum.
feed. They bale
Right.
it.
sorghum, hay grazer, whatever.
So is that what happened? They just didn't take, so they just overseeded it with that?
Yeah, and a lot of times, out here, especially, this time of year, they're going to plant winter wheat just mainly as a cover crop, just to prevent, erosion. Because,
Right.
it gets super windy out here. Tomorrow the wind's supposed to gust over 40 pretty much all afternoon.
Just blows the topsoil right off.
Yeah, exactly.
They
so,
do
You
that.
got to be real careful about that erosion during a drought.
yeah.
I'm being sarcastic, obviously. The second longest drought in history.
Yeah, crazy.
So
they talked about it all summer.
Do you know what the date was when it was?
Oh no, I don't remember,
The
but it
Dust
was
Bowl?
maybe like early 1900s, maybe
the dirty 30s.
Yeah, seriously, maybe 1800s. I don't remember, but they talked about it all summer long. It was unbelievably dry, and it's unbelievably dry right now. Just driving around. Y'all.
It's a dust bowl.
It's
We're in the
unbelievable.
desert. You literally are in the desert.
It's
right
unbelievable.
here.
It's gonna be blowing tomorrow, no doubt. There's gonna be,
But typically there's a lot more birds here this time of year.
yes,
Right?
100%.
Do you think this is the least
100%.
amount of birds in the last 10 years that you've seen? Or
Man, I'll tell you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's not because of the
They're
weather.
here,
We've
but
had the
there's-
biggest cold front across the country that we've seen in a long time too. So
Yeah.
it's not the weather pushing these birds down, right? Other than the fact that it was 80 degrees today, so we had a huge warm up.
yeah,
but
super warm today.
typically we don't have this early cold front early, like the Thanksgiving cold front and that. When we were at Tornado Alley and it got negative 35 wind chill, that went through the entire country. You know,
Right.
It was 0 degrees here and that never happens.
Yeah,
really.
it was crazy. And I thought that would have.
Push some birds
I
out.
thought
For
that would've
sure.
pushed a bunch
Yeah,
of
that's what I'm
birds
saying. I
down,
figured there would be
for
more
sure.
more birds here now
Yeah.
than there usually is just because of that. And that's not the case. So have they literally still not shown up yet? Or did they show up and say, oh,
There's nothing
Nothing
here.
here,
Moving
nothing
on.
here
No,
for me?
Man, I don't think that because, excuse me, I don't think that because of what I see going on like up north.
Yeah.
There's a lot of birds still up around Amarillo, Lubbock.
and-
I just don't think that the majority of them have gotten down here quite to us yet.
Yep, and typically we always walk that fine line of
Right.
when there's a decent amount of bird numbers and a really good amount of bird numbers. Because I always remember in the past, it's they're here, or a week later we leave and they're here.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then
right.
even last year, halfway through our week, they showed up. We hunted a huge migration.
Yeah,
all
for
morning
sure.
we saw
Yeah.
them coming. We actually
Yep.
pulled a couple migrator flocks, and
Yep,
after that,
for sure.
everything
On 'em.
changed.
Yeah.
Everything
It was awesome.
changed.
They came from like a mile high.
Dropping
And
in.
they were
15
coming
minutes later, they
straight
finally
from
came
the
in.
north, like they were a mile high. That's it.
Travelers.
Just chirped on them a couple
Oh,
times,
yep,
dude.
there
and
you
they
go.
just-
Yeah, that was cool.
It was awesome, dude. It was.
That was really cool.
Be nice
that
if that
was
would happen this week.
Yeah, no doubt. We could use some new birds.
Hey,
there's
give
no
me
doubt.
that crane noise again.
Chirp, chirp.
The sound that will never leave your head when you hear it. So regardless of the fact that there's not as many birds here as there typically is when we're here, that's not to say that there's no birds here. There's
no.
definitely
Yeah,
a sizable number
Yes.
that we can hunt. But the issue that I've seen in the scouting that we've done is that they're very, very spread out. They're not all following the leader to one field. And so you're hunting a smaller
feeds.
smaller feeds.
Yes, for
exactly.
sure. Yes.
So you got to kind of pick, you got a couple hundred here, 500 here, 1,000 here.
Right.
It's not like you got the field of 5,000.
Right. And typically, we do. There's, there could be thousands of them. Y'all have seen it.
Yep.
At those nights we've been out
Thousands.
scouting.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But no, this year it's not that, and it's not happened yet. But they come. Every year they come. So hopefully, if everything goes right, we'll get a lot more we'll get a lot more birds to push in.
There-
Hopefully.
so we've kind of talked about this too before with the snow geese up in North Dakota, but there's times when there's kind of too many birds too, right? That we've hunted, but
there can be.
we're
for
literally
sure.
we're concentrating on one group of geese tomorrow, because we
Right.
kind of have to
Right.
because of the bird numbers, where usually we're like, regardless if they're coming to this field or not, there's still going to be thousands that come right over top of
Right.
us that we have opportunities of running
Right.
traffic on.
Right.
And that's not a case anymore. Now you really have to be picky on the feeds that you're hunting because there's not a lot of traffic, and usually there's a lot of traffic.
Right. And it's hard to run traffic on cranes, period.
Right.
Exactly.
It is.
Exactly.
I mean, it's
Exactly.
hard.
Exactly.
Y'all have seen
Yep.
it 100 times when they pick that flight path. I mean, if you're not on it or where they're going, you ain't gonna get them.
Nope.
No.
I mean, you're just
Talk
not. I mean, they're not gonna. They just follow the leader. It's crazy.
They're not going
It's
to
crazy.
respond to the call or
No.
turn. Yeah, and like,
Very rarely.
Yep.
I mean, very rarely. I mean,
it's just more to get their attention.
exactly.
Let's talk about that for a little bit, because this is our first year doing a podcast form style content where we get in depth with our hunts. And if you've ever watched an episode of Heartland Waterfowl where we filmed hunting sandhill cranes in West Texas, you've heard us talk about how they have incredible eyesight. So can you speak to a little greater depth of the difference between hunting a sandhill crane versus the typical waterfowl hunter who hunts ducks and geese?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is, of course, I mean, anything that they're going to see you 9 times out of 10. So it's aside not going as a difference between any other waterfowl, but even more so, you have to worry about your hide. It has to be number one when it comes to cranes.
It has to be
And
perfect.
It does. And it's even harder when you throw in, 3 cameras, stuff like that. I mean, the more stuff you got that shines and don't look right, it's very hard to get them to finish. It really is. But I wouldn't say there's really a real difference. It's just more, you have to spend more time and really concentrate on your hide, I think, in my opinion, than some days with shooting mallards or shooting hunkers. I mean, it doesn't matter the day. A lot of times if you got sunshine with mallards or Canadas, you can use the shadows to your advantage, whatever.
Yep.
But like with cranes, even if you try to do that, I mean, if one of them sees something that they don't even think they don't like, I mean,
They see everything.
They're gonna
That was the thing that I noticed in the
crazy.
first few years that we came down here was that it unlike a duck or a goose, where they may come in, you're on the X, you're where they were the night before.
right.
If they see anything, like the idea is you got the decoys out there and you
Right.
want them to see the decoys, and then
Right.
they want to go to the decoys.
Right.
They see anything that looks even remotely
Yeah. Just forget about
sketch,
it.
then
Yeah.
they're out. And it's not like a duck or a goose where they might be sketched and then they'll lift and
You
then
can
they'll
work 'em
circle a little
back.
bit, work them back. Typically, and we've done it. We've rarely, but we've done
Right.
it where we've turned them and had them come back. But most times, once they've made up their mind that they're
take
not
a look and
committing,
they're gone,
they're
they're
on to the
Yeah.
next spot.
Once they
Yeah,
booger
they're
off,
gone.
they've boogered off.
And likewise, the other way around. Once they put their feet down, they're pretty
committed.
much
pretty
Fully
much.
committed.
Once they commit,
Pretty
they
much,
commit.
they're coming.
Except
You
for
know?
that 3-pack today that came over our backs.
Yeah, that was crazy.
They were dropping their feet the entire time. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is
They're coming.
over with. And
Yeah.
then they saw something right away.
Maybe because
right when
they
they made
came from
that
behind
spin.
us.
Yep. Right when they made that spin, they had their feet down still and they saw something and they kind of, tuckered out to
Right.
the left, which
Right.
you and Chaz probably could have shot.
Oh, we
them.
could have.
Yeah,
There
we
wasn't a
could've.
probably.
We could've.
The right,
mean,
the right side,
yeah.
not so much. But I mean, the right side kind of held its own today, and you guys were. Kind
I
of
don't think so.
Yeah, kinda
There was a
struggling.
big feed to
Kinda
the
struggling.
north too, and I think a lot of those birds were coming in and seeing all those other birds
Oh,
sitting to the
100%.
north.
Kind of
And
struggling.
they
Oh,
took
yeah.
a look at our decoys, and then they're
Yeah.
like, nope.
Yeah, I mean, just like any other waterfowl you hunt, if you got live birds in the area, everybody is
You
dealt
can't
with
compete
it, or
with that.
everybody has seen it. You just can't compete, dude. It's crazy. And
Well, it's
you
like
know,
last night we're watching these little groups, and then they're kind of bouncing, and they ended up in one big group, and then they ended up in the field. And I kept thinking, okay, that's what they're doing this morning. We got these little groups, they bounce into that big group, and I'm like, all right,
They're
when are
gonna
they
bounce
coming
up.
from the north?
Right.
And we had some birds come
like
from
two
the north.
two
but
groups,
And then they just
never
kept
that
going
big
north.
group.
This
Yep,
morning
and
they
then they
kept
just
going
kept
north.
going north.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you figured they're going to come,
Yeah.
bounce around. That's the thing.
I mean, we sat till noon, damn near. I mean,
Yeah.
How many times and it's a lot harder to play this game when there's not as many birds around, but when there's a lot of birds around, how many times have we not been able to get permission on the first field that we see them hit?
Oh,
but
yeah.
the second field.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like,
Yeah.
okay, we might not shoot these birds until 10:30 this morning, and they might not show up until 10 o'clock. But this is the second field that they've been hitting consistently for the past 3 days. We can get permission on this field.
100%, because they do that. I mean,
hunt this one.
It's not always about being on the X when it comes to cranes, because there could be multiple X's throughout the day.
Yep.
Right.
You know, it's not like, so cranes typically,
Well, they feed longer and they hopscotch a lot.
so typically what they'll do is they'll come off the roost first thing in the morning, and they're going to hit like a staging spot. They're going to hit some field right off the roost close. Typically, a bunch of them are going to pack up there, and then they're going to keep moving on throughout the day.
Yeah.
A lot of times, some of those secondary, or what's the secondary for thirds? What would that be?
That's
Would it just be the third?
Playing C.
That'd be just playing C. not secondary, but playing C.
But typically with playing C, you got to go home, right?
Right. So, but like with cranes, if you can find one of those fields that they might not be getting there till 9:30, 10 o'clock, but it's not because they're not coming or they're flying late. It's because they're going to hit multiple spots throughout the morning.
Yep.
And it's not typically a crane. They're not going to do like a duck or a goose would. They will, a duck or a goose, they're going to go out, they're going to feed. They're going to go back to the roost. They're going to come back. They're going to go back, right?
Yep.
Crane, when they come off in the morning, a lot of times they're not going back until they're going back at dark. They're going to find a little loaf or, anything like what we saw them coming out of.
Yep.
I
saw them going in there yesterday morning at 9:30, and they weren't, done to just go sit in there the rest of the day. They're coming back out at some point in time.
Right. So a lot of times if you can get on one of those
second
or third feeds, it can be even better.
And sometimes it's cotton. They like little cotton seeds.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I've seen him stage on all kinds of stuff and laying on all kinds of fields, and it's crazy. You're thinking, what are they even doing in there? Like seriously, and they might not even be feeding, right?
They're just jumping around, playing with each other,
right? But the fact of the matter is they're going to come to that field, that cotton field, or a bare dirt field, whatever, and they might stage up in there for an hour or two, and then they might move on to go feed actually, instead of, let's go back to the roost, let's go back to the water. So yeah, the point is if you can find some of those fields that they're hitting later in the morning or, even early afternoon, it can really pay off.
Yeah,
it really can.
That's the other thing too. You might find a nice feed, like a big, huge winter wheat field, but like, how are you going to hunt those birds? So is it better to find like 300, like in a good field where you can hide? It's like,
oh yeah, in my opinion, yes.
Yeah, we're looking at some of those.
You're
fields.
talking just more of like,
how are you going to hunt them?
Like the one one we saw tonight, for instance. It was a Milo field, flat as can be, obviously, like most of them.
Right.
Yeah.
But the far west side had hay bales, and the farmer like stacked them up in like 5 or 6 little pods, and it would have been perfect for tomorrow's win. The problem is all the geese are on the east side of the field. It's like, and they're coming from the east. I said geese. We did see some geese, but all the cranes, were coming from the east, and they're laying on the east side of the field. So it's like, I don't know if you can pull them.
Yeah.
I don't think you can,
especially
pull
with a heavy wind.
And there's no other way to hunt it with a west-southwest wind because they're on the far east side of the field, and it's just flat. And I mean, the Milo stalks are maybe this tall.
Yeah. So probably shredded it or something.
Yeah. So, it just makes things difficult.
Unlike that other Milo field that we saw that's still standing.
Exactly.
And so we talked about maybe hunting that field, and there's quite a few going to it. But one of the biggest things when it comes to crane hunting is obviously their eyesight. If they can't see your decoys, then they don't know where to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that field with that standing Milo, like even if you're glassing it, if there's not cranes going into it, you can't see them.
No, you can't.
There's so many tumbleweeds, and it's a huge field. It's just one of those deals that, if they can't see you, then
they don't know you're there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not even worthwhile hunting.
I would much rather 100% hunt a winter wheat field.
Those decoys just like
a winter wheat field than a Milo field.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love hunting Milo fields because it's like crack cocaine,
Right?
to just about any waterfowl.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, like
they love it.
If you got a Milo field and they're stacked in there, you got pretty good confidence going the next day because they just love that Milo,
especially down here.
Right. But in in my opinion, I would rather be able to have those cranes be able to see our decoys and really have that good contrast where they pop out there.
Yep.
Rather than hunting a standing milo field where they can't.
They're kind of blended in.
They can't see you even if they're right on top of them. But
Well,
just my opinion. Just
tomorrow we got a winter wheat field.
Right, and that plays into what we were talking about for tomorrow.
Yeah. So before we get into that, because we do feel pretty confident about the Scout tonight and what we could potentially have for tomorrow.
I think it'll be good.
But we do have, and we've talked about some of this already, but we do have a lot of variables that are working against us. And I'll just touch on a few. One, obviously, we talked about the lack of food source, the lack of water. It's dry, lack of bird numbers. It's also, in my opinion, in the several years that we've been coming down here, it's a lot warmer. I mean, there's a misconception that in Texas, it's always hot. And don't get me wrong, and you can speak to this better than anybody, but it can get hot. But I remember last year when we were down here heading out to the field, there was cars every half mile in the ditch because they had slid off the road from the ice. I mean, because it was.
Y'all remember that duck hunt?
Oh yeah. It was 7 degrees at 4 degrees or something like that.
I wasn't here
It
for
was
that.
one of the coldest duck hunts
So
I've
we
ever
shot.
done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it can get bitterly cold here, but like our low when we're setting up is like 45, pushing 50, and it's getting up to 75, 80 in the
This
afternoon.
week. Yeah.
79 degrees today.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We are way above average
For sure.
right now.
Yeah,
I mean, typically we should be highs in the 50s, low 60s. You know, nighttime temps getting down to the 30s, maybe below freezing. You know, we had that big cold spell last week, but the thing is, it doesn't stay. You know, it's not like Kansas City, you know, or North Dakota or anywhere else for the most part. But when winter sets in,
Right.
You know, like y'all been cold for a while now, and it ain't gonna warm up till April. I mean, y'all know that. But down here, we'll have these clippers come down, and it'll be cold for 2-3 days, and it'll lock up some water. But
then it's
the
gone.
next day it's
Then
65 in
the
the South.
Alberta Clippers.
Right,
Texas.
exactly. Exactly. That's all it is. It's just get a little clip from it. We
Yep.
don't get the whole thing, just a little clip. And but then them south winds come back and it warms right back up. But no, it should not be 78 degrees January 1st.
It's not helping anything.
No, it's
No,
We're
they
way
didn't.
above
They
average.
didn't move hardly at all tonight.
Well, and that was the
That
other
was
thing.
crazy. It was a hard scout.
the
tonight,
birds
dude.
that were already in the fields were already just sitting there and they weren't doing anything.
Yeah, they didn't
it
move
was
the red
a
dart.
tough scout. It really was.
Yeah, if
it
you
was
weren't seeing 'em-
frustrating.
If you weren't seeing them on
Frustrating.
the ground, then you weren't seeing them because they weren't flying anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other part of that, because of the warmer conditions, might be explain why they're waiting till 9 o'clock
Maybe.
to go out to feed. I mean, they're also not flying at first light
Yeah.
either.
No.
You'll get the few what we like to jokingly call
Scout
scout birds, but
Right.
but typically we've seen in the last couple mornings that they're not flying till later.
Yeah, I mean, when they, like you just said, you get a couple that start bumping off the roost early, but that main wave, I mean, even the last couple mornings scouting before y'all got here, I mean, that main wave ain't coming off till 8:30, quarter to 9. But you got to figure too. I mean, shooting time ain't till damn near 7:30.
Yeah.
you know, I mean, sunrise is 7:50 tomorrow. So I think that plays a big factor into it too. You
Yep.
know, it's not like shooting times at 6:30 and they should be coming off at 6:45. You know,
Right.
I mean, you got to put that in perspective too.
Right.
Especially as much as they depend on their sight. I mean, it's got to get light out.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, like I tell people all the time, it's like if it's foggy, man, it's tough. It is tough to hunt cranes in the fog or the rain or anything that really,
The
inhibits.
sun, when the
anything that
decoys
really
pop,
inhibits
it
their
seems like
eyesight.
they work better.
Just
when the
shuts them
decoys
down.
pop.
Yeah, because they depend so much on their eyesight.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it can be real tough on rainy days, foggy days. Anything that really inhibits their eyesight. For
Right.
sure.
Right. All right. So before we get into what we're hunting tomorrow, which we've already alluded to is a winter wheat field, I'd like to remind you that there's just a few more days left before we draw the winner for the person who's going to get to go on a hunt with us, a filmed hunt. That's going to happen in Missouri with Valley Oaks the first week of February. Of course, you get to bring a friend. They get to bring a friend. Yeah.
Tell them where they can sign up, Ronnie. if you haven't signed up already,
Nice segue, Joe.
tell them about it, Ronnie.
huntingwithhw.com, but you have to make sure you subscribe to the Heartland Waterfowl YouTube channel. We want you to engage, like, comment on all of our videos, and then go to huntingwithhw.com. That's the landing page for you to fill out your information so we know how to get a hold of you. We're going to draw that winner on January 5th. Again, as you're maybe watching this months down the road. We're recording this on January 1st, 2023. And so go do that as soon as possible so that we can draw that winner here in a few days.
Chaz Michaels has volunteered to be the chef for the
really? Did you?
Nice.
What are you cooking?
I'm a good one.
Yeah.
I'm a damn good one.
He volunteered to be the chef the entire time
You are
they
a
were
good
there.
camp cook.
You're pretty mean with the crock pot. I will give you that.
Speaking of eating, how
Set it
good
and forget it.
Kate.
those crane poppers tonight.
Yes.
were
Good.
delicious.
Hey,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
We got to
Crane
give
is-
Champlin a little bit of love too, even though he's
Oh, he was
sleeping.
on
I wish we
that.
could take a camera and show him. Is there a way?
Hold on.
Hang on, we got to show this. Champlin
me to pull my phone out.
is
Yeah,
so
get him.
exhausted
Get him.
from.
There he is.
No,
Welcome to the show.
Don't wake up now. Everybody, welcome to the show.
Thanks for the crane
crane
poppers, champ. They were good.
He works so hard on those crane poppers that he's over there.
But now, shout
sleeping.
out Kate. Shout
Yeah,
out Kate.
Kate.
for the food.
Kate, thank you.
Kate.
Love you. Joe's beautiful wife.
We love
Who's
the
been
food.
putting up with us?
Hey, that pork and sauerkraut. Yep.
Delish.
Yep.
What, tomorrow's
Wait,
great?
tomorrow is crane pot pie.
Yeah.
Way better than the black eyed
The poppers
peas
were
and
good.
ham.
Yeah, poppers
Oh, they were
banging.
great.
They were
That's
great.
another question for America. Maybe is what is a New Year's Day meal
Black eyed
tradition
pees and ham
for
is,
your area?
is
I mean,
my
what-
family.
that's
and
kinda what I grew
I'm
up
not
on,
a
too.
fan.
My dad
I'm
would
not
do
a
that.
I
fan.
said I grew up in Pennsylvania, born and raised. We ate pork, sauerkraut, mashed potatoes.
I'm moving to
Every
Pennsylvania because
New
I'm in
Year's.
on that
That's
for
it.
the
Much
New
more
Year's.
like, I
than the
know-
black eyed peas. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
down here, it's black eyed peas.
Oh, is it?
Oh
Okay.
yeah,
That's like
Black-
a Midwestern kind
right,
of.
right. But no, where I grew up, it was pork, sauerkraut, mashed potatoes.
Yeah, I want that.
Yeah,
That
Yep.
sounds good.
Yep. I want that.
We're hunting a winter wheat field. We're hunting a winter wheat field tomorrow.
It looks just like all the other winter wheat fields that are out there.
yeah.
There's a couple hundred birds in it.
That's another thing too. It's like what separates the one from the other. You know,
Yeah.
that's one thing I've been. I mean, if you can figure that out, please drop me a line.
Well,
because-
tomorrow when we shoot them out of that one, they're going to go to another
But
one.
like,
How you want to hide in there tomorrow?
oh wow, just I don't know. There's good pump jack. We could probably snuggle up close to good.
There's a good
tumbleweeds.
weed line on that west side.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't think we'll have any trouble hiding.
When I say weed line, I mean tumbleweeds.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, telling people what I'm doing out here, but
Giving away all your tricks.
no, I mean, there's a lot of.
What's all the secrets of VLand and Holding to shoot a crane?
that's not,
Let us look
trust
under
me,
the
I'm
hood.
not-
It's a
trust
lot
me.
of tumbleweeds.
Trust
is what
me,
it is.
I'm not
It's all
the
about
only,
them
I'm not the
tumbleweeds.
only one. Trust me, but man, it's crazy because there's so much. I want to say so much work activity out here. There's obviously oil field. There's oil field
Yeah.
stuff everywhere, and the birds are very
to it.
very used to it. But you know, very rarely. I know. This morning we set up kind of in the middle, you know, without setting up next to some sort of structure. If we could have got to that pivot head, I would have liked to have sat there, but there wasn't a good 2-track going to it.
Right.
And we're not just going to drive through. You
No.
know, right. If there's not a 2-track going to a pivot head, then I'm not getting to it.
And the soil here is so much
Right.
different than what we're used to that you can
Right.
get stuck really quick.
yeah, very sandy.
Yeah.
But
My back end dropped out the
Oh,
other
for
night
sure.
when scouting. I was like,
Nope, we're not doing that.
for sure. Where was I going with that? Damn it! What was I talking
With
about?
Do
you
you
were
want to
saying you don't
backdrop? You
set
want
up
to
in
be
the middle. You're not going to set up in the
setting
middle.
right? And
Yeah.
but a lot of times I will try to use the oil field stuff that's out here. I'll try to use a pump jack or a tank battery.
Yep.
You know, just anything like that because
Farm
they're used,
equipment.
They're used to it. You know, they really are. And you know,
Tumbleweeds.
yeah. I mean, tumbleweed
The
hide.
natural terrain.
Look, Barney Califf said it best in like 1994. There's no better hide than a tumbleweed hide.
There isn't.
There really isn't.
We
It's-
stuff a bunch of them in
really
the back
isn't.
of our
There
trailer
really
and
isn't.
keep them in there all year.
But shout out Barney Califf, world champion duck caller. Y'all don't know. Buck Gardner calls.
Cool. So that's the plan for tomorrow. I don't know what else to say. I mean,
Should be good.
I think so.
We'll
I mean,
see.
the way they're coming off and the way they left tonight, I mean, I think it's going to be really good. We're right in line with
Yeah.
where they're all going. Plus, there was a couple hundred in there, which gives me really good confidence. I mean, if we get a couple groups come out and do it just right first thing in the morning, which I think they should move pretty good in the morning because the wind is supposed to howl tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be crazy.
Like you said, it only takes a few groups.
Right. You know,
We just want the 3 and 5 packs. We
Right.
don't need those 30 and 40 bird
no,
groups.
we're not greedy. Just give us a couple that finish just right.
Yep.
You know, and you know, it's another. the cool thing about crane hunting is, like you touched on earlier, whenever they commit, they fully commit. And when you get a group that comes in and they finish right in the hole, right over the decoys, they don't have a clue you're there. I mean, it is awesome. I mean, it's unlike any other decoying bird, in my opinion.
I mean, those 4 today were at 10 yards.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And they finally lifted a little bit before we shot them, but
yeah,
whatever.
So tomorrow afternoon, when that wind's whipping like it's supposed to, what direction is that going to be out of?
West southwest.
Yeah,
Okay.
west southwest.
So I was hoping it would be from the northern
No,
direction, so it
no,
might push
it
some
ain't-
birds down.
it ain't
Is it
that
supposed to
kind
be
of
getting
front.
any colder while we're here?
No, and dude, even looking at the long range, I mean, even close to the end of the month, I mean, there's no real front coming anytime soon. I mean, I know it could all change, but pretty much from here to the 20th, I mean, it's showing
Like high
30s and 60s.
Yeah, high
you know,
60s.
which is average.
Yeah.
Which is average, and average can be good. You know, I mean, I'm average, you know, but
Yes, you are.
Are you good?
Is
Are
he
you
average?
I'm good.
Are you good?
Your wife or your-
Are you
She
good?
said you're a little above average.
What
Well,
we
above average.
what we need,
You're blushing.
what we need is for it to get real cold up in the Panhandle, up in Oklahoma, Amarillo, Lubbock. We need it to get real cold, even eastern Colorado. We need to get really cold there, and as long as it'll push them birds in, and if it's 60 every day, they're gonna stay. You know, I mean, once they get here, they're not gonna go anywhere. You know,
Yep.
so you know, it just depends, man. I'm praying we get some pushes, obviously, but
Right.
you know, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I mean, not every year can be a banger year.
You're
I mean,
praying
just-
you get a little above average.
I wish I was a little bit
get a little-
taller. I wish I was a ball.
Get a little above
Keep wishing.
average to bring down the magnums.
Seriously.
See what I did there?
Nice play on words.
Yeah, thank you.
Trying to mess
I'm
with
here all
the
week.
juvies.
But no, I mean, dude, it's crazy to think, but I mean, I'll say it. I mean, we're spoiled, dude, when it comes to crane hunting. I mean,
Yeah.
We're gonna have to work a little
we've
harder
really,
this week.
I mean,
probably.
we've got them, you know, every year, you know, we really have. And, you know, everybody knows you don't always get them. You don't always have a stellar juvie snow hatch where you're shooting 200 a day.
Right.
You don't always have that. Right.
You're just a little above average.
Right. And this year could be that year. But I hope not. I mean, like I said, I hope they push in, and I hope we finish out strong. So
we're going to have there's a whole lot more to come in the week that we're here with VLand and Holding. Obviously, when we come back tomorrow, we're going to have a report on Kate's pot pie.
no doubt, crane pot pie tomorrow, baby.
Is that something
We're
that
gonna
you
have
would
a
be?
report
Is
on
that
our
a
hunt?
is that a secret recipe?
no matter?
Yeah.
Or is that something that you would be willing to share? She'll share.
She ain't sharing it.
We might maybe when you come back, you'll get a
Everyone
little crane
asks.
pie.
Hey, well,
Because you can
trademark it.
apply that to
Everyone
ducks and
asks it.
geese, right? It's not just crane. You can apply it to any meat.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So we'll maybe give you a crane or a pot pie that you can use with your waterfowl
Can we
recipe.
can we monetize that and sell that?
Royalty fee.
When this thing becomes big enough to be monetized, we'll consider that. Also, we will mention this real quick before we leave. That in camp that we have, he's not with us at the moment because he got up about 2:00 in the morning. But TriStar Arms is our official shotgun sponsor,
Shout
and
out
Gus Bader is down here for the second year in a row, and maybe we'll have him on the show here in the next 2
I
days.
think
that we're
Gus
here.
would be good on the pod.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Gus has got story. He's got more stories in the library.
He can
So-
tell you about that Axis hunt.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, he did come down and access hunt with us over the summer.
We'll also.
I mean, he's hunted everywhere. You know, he's
Everywhere.
a lot of
he is
different
awesome.
places.
Gus is a great
He's a
dude.
cool guy.
Shout out TriStar.
And also in the next few episodes of Behind the Blind while we're here, we'll give you more information on all of the things that VLand and Holding can offer you outside of just crane hunting. So don't forget to go to huntingwithhw.com, fill out that information, subscribe to the Heartland Waterfowl YouTube channel, comment on this video, the video from today's hunt, because we did end up getting a few birds. That video is going to, we try to release those videos the next day around 8:30, and then the podcast of Behind the Blind comes out about 3:00 in the afternoon the next day. So make sure you go look for that video, and hopefully we have a banger hunt tomorrow where you can come back and check out that video. So until then, Logan Burditt, Chaz Michaels,
Chaz.
Joe Palumbo. I'm Ronnie Philips. Thank you, Tetra Hearing, for supporting Behind the Blind. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Y'all sign up for the hunt. Don't complain if you don't win, if you don't sign up.
Yep. Chef Chaz Michaels.
I'll cook for you.
He's going to be cooking that sauce.